Hello, and welcome back to True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Michael, and Andy finally left us, guys. He finally left us. Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while. He's not here in the studio. So yeah, there will be no show this week. No, I'm kidding. There will be a show this week, but Andy really is not in the studio. He's on vacation. He's in California. So if you're out that way, actually hit us up on Twitter. True Crime Guys on Twitter. Andy is running that now, and I think he put up a tweet the other day asking for some recommendations to do while he is in the LA area. I'm sure there's like a bajillion things to do. I don't know why you need recommendations to just like point and look and then go in that direction, right? Probably tons of shit to do. But anyways, in his absence, we thought that we would let you guys listen to our very first ever Patreon exclusive, Andy and I, that is, obviously not for True Crime Guys, but me and Andy's first Patreon exclusive on Butch Cassidy, where we even dressed up. We even wore cowboy hats. Andy actually went for the whole outfit. He was sweating bullets, no pun intended, for the Butch Cassidy episode. And yeah, he absolutely killed it. And it was a really fun episode. You can catch that in video form. It has been released on our YouTube. And but before we get into that, guys, real quick, I want to let you guys know about another show that we think you'll love, Live, Laugh, Larceny podcast. We're going to run a promo for them. And guys, don't forget as well that we have other shows here on TCG Network, Sandu Stories, Strange and Unexplained. You can catch those. And always, there's more TCG content at patreon.com/truecrimeguys. All right, so check out this promo, guys, then we'll get into the show.
Do you find crime podcasts to be a little too murdery? Then take a break from all things heavy and get petty.
Join us, Amanda and Trevin, as we share killer facts, dreadful dilemmas, and tell real-life petty crime stories in the style of an audio drama.
There, sprayed all over the aisle floor and 8 display wigs, was a fresh pile of poo. Listen to Live, Laugh, Larceny on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Party Creepers! Not bad for your first time, Andy. That was a pretty damn good Party Creeper.
Right, got the good timing. I think we harmonized pretty well.
I think we did.
Just like we're sitting around a campfire singing songs, harmonizing.
We are harmonizing. We are harmonizing. We're matching in attire somewhat.
Like I said,
Andy went all out.
You needed a banjo to sit here and just plucking away, telling a story.
Yeah,
telling a good old.
Because telling the story is not hard enough.
Yeah, tell a fireside story. Just, let me tell you guys. Let me tell you creepers.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But guys, seriously, I want to thank you guys, everyone who's on Patreon especially, for sticking with us through all this transition period and through us getting on a new schedule. We're recording at a different time today. Usually we record, or our plan for the future is to record TCG proper on the Thursday before it comes out. So we have 6 days to produce the episode and, add things or whatever we want to do. Mm-hmm. But it got pushed back today, so it's Friday night. We're recording. And after this, we're going to do JTB, where we have some special announcements for future JTBs that we are very excited about.
Yeah, we had to push a few things back, guys. Remember, now that Michael is taking over doing a lot of the timeline stuff, we're also on a Patreon episode week, and we're also on Sandu Stories.
Yeah, it's like a perfect storm this week.
Where Michael and I normally have our time together to work on Sandu Stories. Michael has been devoted to a lot of this as well. I have been really stressed about being a new co-host, and things have gotten. I dropped the ball a little bit on the writing as well. It got a little down on my list, but
that's all right. We're getting better.
I was getting there. I'm learning. Okay?
That's right. Listen, it's a different dynamic.
It's a different dynamic, folks.
That's a phrase you're going to hear probably a lot lately because Andy likes to say it.
Until you hate it.
Until you hate it, because that's the way he describes the new TCG. He's like, yeah, it's a different dynamic. That's what he's been telling people that listen, and then now they're either satisfied or dissatisfied with the way the show's going. It doesn't matter, but
yeah, I just want Kristen to keep hearing that in her head all the time. It's like, I know it's a different.
We're just gonna start playing you in slow motion. It's a different dynamic. Just zoom in on your face every time.
Yeah, just Kristen will start doing it like the Lady Gaga thing she did last time. It'll just start sound different every time.
Yeah, that's right. And speaking of YouTube, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you should, because me and Andy dress for the occasion.
Yeah, guys, Patreon episodes are getting a little bit more.
Handkerchief, a freaking cowboy hat.
Yeah, man, we're getting a little bit more theatrical and a bit more engaged with our Patreon listeners right here, guys.
And I wore a hat and assless chaps. No, I'm just kidding.
They're gonna be asked by the end of this episode.
Probably, because this timeline is quite lengthy. As you can imagine. I mean, Butch Cassidy, right? An American legend, an American hero. It's one of those timelines where you could literally work on it forever.
Yeah, literally like what was like the last great American outlaw kind of deal.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, there's so many stories, and then once you think you have his timeline down, then you go and study some more, and then you start plugging in alternate timelines and alternate ways that situations went, and he may have traveled to South America here or Idaho here, and it just becomes this crazy web of information. But what we did throw together was a fun episode about Butch Cassidy, and hopefully quite informative, because I read one book, and then I read a lot of cliff notes from another book, and you can't help but biographies getting referenced in everything that you research. I swear to God, every member of Butch's family wrote a biography.
Absolutely. Wouldn't you, if your last name was Cassidy at this point?
That's true. None of them were named Cassidy. Actually.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That's the ironic part about it. Maybe that's why they had to, is because they didn't have that Cassidy name.
They didn't have any recognition. Because he was like, I don't want you guys anymore.
Well, I mean,
I don't want to be tied to you guys. And then I got famous, and now they're all like, well, we want to be tied to you. Can we kind of come on a little bit?
Well, the problem is, like most American outlaws, his name was just an alias. So all of his family members were actually last name Parker. And then he had 13 siblings or 12 siblings, which we'll get into, and a lot of them were girls. So when they married off, their names all changed.
True. Yeah.
So he has a bunch of nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews and stuff that wrote different books and stuff. So everybody's got their own way of doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So what we talked about. We were talking about JTB earlier, right? So you're actually gonna hear JTB 100 before this is released. But on JTB 101, we are going to do the live Q&A.
That's right, guys. On YouTube.
Yes,
it's going to
on
be
YouTube.
Live streamed YouTube, JTB. We want as many of you guys to get in there, to shoot the comments back and forth. We want to get a real discussion going on there. And we want to see how that starts to work. We want to see if we can start getting some people engaged and possibly doing that more often. So we're going to try it out with JTB first and see how well that goes.
Thursday, March 2nd, in the afternoon, I'll put up a post on Patreon with the specific time and the link to the Q&A. Or Andy will. One of us will. You guys will know where it is, but it is taking place Thursday, March 2nd. That is next Thursday. If you're here, actually, it's tomorrow when you're hearing this.
Yeah, true.
As you're hearing this on March 1st, if you're hearing this on March 1st when it was released, it's tomorrow. We're doing a live Q&A on Patreon for $5 and up patrons. So if you're there, hang out with us, talk with us, get to know Andy a little bit better. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
So by the time you're actually seeing this video, you'll probably already know that we're doing a JTB episode because we'll probably have to post it before then. So
exactly.
This is just a reminder for you at this point.
Exactly. All right. And then one more order of business before we get started. I want to thank Yesenia Pineda on Patreon. Like I said, I am taking... The next 2 months are full of Patreon or patron recommendations. So your voices are being heard. You will hear your cases, especially if I've responded to you. I put up a post about a week ago asking for suggestions, and I replied to a lot of people and told them about when their case would be. If I replied to you, we are doing your case. It is coming up, so be patient.
The people have spoken. We have listened.
That's right. So, Yesenia, here it is. Here's Butch Cassidy. And here's a line from the book Butch Cassidy, a biography written by Richard Patterson, this is not the book that I read, but I will quote this book quite a bit because he had some really good quotes. He says, "Few criminals have reaped as much goodwill in life and death as Cassidy." That's a pretty good quote. Good quote.
It kind of gives the whole Robin Hood vibe that he kind of also gives off. It kind of leaves that mystery of like outlaw or hero.
It does. So. And I'm just going to say right off, I think he was overall a good guy. He done some bad things, but I think his heart was pure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Bad actions, but pure heart.
Yeah, what did we talk about
I don't know. It's weird, but
like it's like TCG a few episodes ago talked about being in the Wild West. It was like, you kind of, like, to survive in the Wild West, you kind of had to do some shitty things sometimes.
Yeah,
like,
there was a lot of semi-outlaws,
Yeah, everybody wasn't just helping their neighbors out all the time, and everybody, it was, you found a cow out there, didn't have a brand, that's your cow now. That's just,
we're going to talk about cattle stealing quite a bit.
You gonna bet
quite a bit. quite a bit. Before we get into old Butch Cassidy here, though, I want to share a fun fact for you guys. This is an outlaw who is otherwise unrelated to Butch Cassidy, other than he was active in this time. Okay, his name was Tom Ketchum. Tom Ketchum was an outlaw born in San Saba.
San Saba?
San Saba songbird, like Buster Scruggs.
Oh,
yeah.
San Saba.
And he was active around the same time as Butch and the Wild Bunch. Blackjack, as they called him.
Black?
No, it's the opposite, actually. I didn't even think about that.
Jack Black?
Jack Black didn't even come into my mind when I said blackjack, because, blackjack's already a thing.
Oh, it is? Can you explain this to me? I've never heard about this before.
Anyways, Blackjack, as they called him, created a little train robbing posse of his own with his brother Sam Ketchum and others. But the reason we even bring up Tom today is to help you understand the seriousness that was train robbing in the Wild West, okay? This was no slap on the wrist crime.
Yeah.
In the latter half of the 19th century, it carried the penalty of death. No joke. Like, if they knew you robbed a train, if they just got word of mouth you robbed a train and they found you, gallows.
That's whether or not anybody got hurt in the train robbery. You could walk in there, not fire a shot, and just walk out with everybody's stuff. Yep, still.
Exactly. And foreshadowing, our buddy here, Blackjack, or Tom Ketchum, received a death sentence in 1901 for felonious assault on a train, okay? And he did nothing. The assault was literally just on the train. He, blew off the doors, and no one got hurt. No one got hurt. No one.
Yeah, that doesn't mean, on a train, 2 people. It was on the train. I didn't know you could get charged with that.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the crazy part. By the time he was hanged, he had put on so much weight during the trials that his head actually popped off.
It made that sound.
It did, probably.
It had so much weight behind it, made it sound like a pumpkin.
That's crazy. If you look him up on Wikipedia, or we probably got a picture of him on the screen if you're on YouTube, and he's not a big fella. So I don't know how long these proceedings were. I don't know, maybe they just fed him like crazy in prison. I don't know. How did you put on this much weight?
I just feel like maybe they just didn't have the right hangman back then in this area, because there was a time when hanging was a science.
He bought a good rope.
Yeah, true. It's hangman was like a science. It was an art form. The right size rope, the right length, the right drop for the person. What, did you just have a substitute in that day or something? The guy was like, oh man, yeah, Greg's sick. Anybody else get this? Yeah, I'll get him. Is that a chain? Don't worry about it.
I feel like they could have just tied his legs together at the knees and just leaned him forward.
Yeah,
and it probably would have killed him, right? Just lean forward for us there, Blackjack.
Yeah, let's just go rock him at this
point. I think that'll handle you all right. But yeah, I thought that would be a fun little gory detail to start this episode, since it is otherwise somewat wholesome.
This could have.
We don't get a lot of killing, so
this could have been Butch.
It could
have been Butch.
Butch weighed 155 pounds. I seriously doubt it, but
been on that rope.
Been on that rope. All right, guys, let's roll the intro. Let's get into this thing.
Butch Cassidy, the audacity. Butch Cassidy, the audacity. It's not him robbing trains. He's in control, got a hold of the reins. He's a gunslinging Robin Hood. Only does his robbing for good. Takes what he needs and he spends it all. Blind to the fact that it's all his fault. Hot on his trail, it won't be long. But he still don't know what he did wrong. Cause he's Butch Cassidy, the audacity. Butch Cassidy, the audacity. He's Butch Cassidy, the audacity. Butch Cassidy, the audacity. Hot on this trail, it won't be long.
right.
Solid intro.
Thank
Like
you.
that.
I wonder what it is.
You gave away the illusion.
I wonder what it could be. I have 6 days to do an intro after we record. I have no idea. I'm not even thinking about that right now. Especially not now that I have to write the timelines. All right, but let's get into Butch Cassidy. This is not about me, okay? Butch Cassidy, born Robert LeRoy Parker, was an American outlaw and leader of the Wild Bunch, which was a collection of bank and train robbers who ranged through the western United States through 1880s and the 90s.
Not to be confused with the other Wild Bunch, because
That's
there are
right.
two. We will get to that.
Yes, Doolin Dalton's crew was also called the Wild Bunch.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of people say that's where Butch got the name. I mean, you know,
I think that's probably a pretty good
sincerest form of
idea.
flattery, right? I mean,
Yeah, he was
what's
like,
the
well,
big
that's
deal?
a good name. Why don't we just use that?
Exactly.
It's not like Billy the Kid's gang. It's just the Wild Bunch. That's just, we're wild. That's a bunch of us.
Exactly. So almost as interesting as Butch's story is the time in which he was born into. So let's back up a little bit and let's go in. Let's just set the stage for when Butch Cassidy was born. Okay, in the mid-19th century, the area of Utah was somewhat of a war zone. Regardless of who you were, somebody was out to get you. If you were Mormon, the Gentile Christians hated you, and the natives didn't trust you.
True.
But between the Ute tribes and the Mormons in particular, that area was getting quite hostile.
Oh, yeah, the Mormons didn't come in there. They were given the land, but once again, there was already people on the land.
Exactly.
So had to do that whole rigmarole again. Like
And
we've
they
done
were still fighting with the U.S. government too. So
Yeah.
I mean, the Mormons didn't get along with anybody at this time.
No.
But the Ute tribes and the Mormons in the area hated each other. Well, hell, even other native tribes, though, hated the Utes, to be fair. Nobody liked the Utes either.
assholes over there.
Okay, they were one of the most violent, but also one of the most profitable and successful tribes, though. Which,
Well, yeah.
That makes sense, right? They conquer shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the saviors in The Walking Dead. It's like, well, yeah, you got the most profit. You're killing everybody and taking half
That's
the
right.
shit.
Right, but thank God, the other tribes in the area, like the Utes, or like the Paiute tribe, rather, were a lot more cooperative. Okay, they were a peaceful, cooperative tribe that traded with local colonies and got along well, even with the American government. Believe it or not,
Were they also as cooperative with the Mormon government as well? Like the Mormon
they
churches
were.
as well?
They were for a while, yeah. And the Mormons fucked that up, but we'll get to that.
The Mormons fucked that up.
So just to recap: Ute, aggressive, hostile, territorial. Paiute, peaceful, friendly, cooperative. Remember, P for Paiute, P for peaceful. There you go. That's how you can remember it.
the Paiute peaceful. It's
The
like what was
Paiute, the peaceful Paiutes.
It reminds me of the Ace Ventura, the Wachuto and the Wachiti.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's very confusing.
Very confusing, but very similar in this situation. It's like one very aggressive right now, one very peaceful.
Yeah.
Don't
It's
steal
kind of
their
like
bat.
that. It's kind of like that.
Just don't steal their bat.
But the Paiute tribe, they got picked on by everybody, honestly. The Utes were even known to capture Paiute tribe members and sell them into slavery or use them for God knows what else.
Yeah.
The Utes would just troll everybody, though. They would also stare into the windows of white-owned houses and taunt the residents. They were just trolls, man. They were fucking with everyone that approached their territory. It didn't matter who it was.
Fucking just corpse paint in their face, just staring in the window.
Yes, yeah, war paint, everything, man, everything.
What was the Lone Ranger's Tonto guy, like Johnny Depp's character with all the black and white face?
Yeah.
Just imagine looking in your window at night, just...
And they're right outside the window. I mean, they are right there. So obviously this type of harassment made the Mormons paranoid. I mean, who wouldn't? And as we know, paranoia leads to fear, which eventually leads to rage.
leads to the dark side.
That's right. And it caused the Mormons and Gentiles alike to start seeing all natives in the area the same. Those damn Utes, they were ruining it for everybody. They really were.
Listen, you fucked it up for everybody else, okay?
Yeah. And it was easy to get the peaceful Paiutes confused with the warrior Utes.
Especially for a bunch of just white Mormons that just showed up out here. I don't know whether
Exactly.
they're like, what are you guys? I heard Oot.
I heard it. I heard it.
I heard Oot in there.
But on one occasion, the Mormons sent out an invitation to the Paiute tribe to attend one of their sermons in town. And it was a strange request, as you could imagine, as many of the Paiutes thought so as well. So the turnout was not so great. But some did go. Some Paiutes did go.
I'm
I'm
they
surprised
felt very
that any
awkward,
went.
just being like, man, I thought more. Oh man, they said they were going to show up. Oh shit.
Yeah, right? Like 5 of them show up.
Five.
Like, oh,
Gosh,
fuck.
shit.
But yeah, so the Mormons were pissed about it, though. They were insulted. And at this time, everyone in the country was ridiculing Mormons and putting them down. If you ask a Mormon, okay, that's what I'm getting at. They all felt this way. They felt ridiculed. They felt exiled. They felt not wanted.
True.
Okay. So they were pissed. And instead of being cool about it and being like, wow, some of them actually showed.
Someone showed up.
Some showed. They were like, nah, we got to go get the rest of them because we got to show them our Jesus.
No, what do they say in the what do they say in the music industry? You play for who shows up, okay?
You play for who shows up.
You play for who shows up. I'm sorry the rest of that tribe didn't, but you know what? Those 5, you know what, guys? Potluck. More for you. You guys get leftovers.
They didn't see it that way because obviously, Andy, that was not their intentions to indoctrinate them.
These guys are assholes.
Yeah, they didn't care. So they rode to the Paiute village and demanded everyone attend. Okay? And I seriously doubt they cared that much about the Paiute souls.
Yeah,
they didn't care.
I don't think it was out of the goodness of Jesus' love.
No, I don't think so. And the rest of the tribe was understandably hesitant. And one tribe member even tried to flee into the woods, but was instantly shot and killed. The remaining members were then tied up and led into you going to church. You going to church.
I said you didn't put them Sunday shoes on.
This is how I felt when my mom made me put on a shirt with buttons when I was a kid. No, I'm kidding.
No, same way. Put a tie on, combing your hair.
You're going to church. But the remaining members were then tied up and led into town. And when they arrived, the men were led into the lecture hall, hands tied behind their backs. This is not a good sign anytime they're going to separate the men from everyone else, right?
Oh, no, we want this to be this is as friendly as possible, right?
Yeah,
right?
Very friendly.
Everybody's happy, feeling that love of Christ?
Mm-hmm. So the men were led to the lecture hall, hands tied, like I said, and the women and children were held in a basement nearby. Mm-hmm. Now, the crazy thing is, dude, they actually did try to preach to the Paiutes for a little while.
I'm sure.
They actually did have like somewhat of a sermon planned. And temporarily, it worked until they realized that the Paiute men were trying to slip out of their ropes. And they were planning to rush them all at once. Because literally, what other chance do you have?
Yeah, and also,
you don't have another chance.
Do all the Paiute speak English? Is that another thing? It's like, are they giving this sermon in English? Or like,
that's a great question.
Do you guys even know if they understand what you're saying? Or do you have someone translating this thing?
Well, I mean, they were trading with them often. Yeah. They had plenty of peaceful interactions with the Paiutes. The Paiutes would come into town. They would trade baked goods for like hand-woven blankets and things like that.
Oh, yeah, but you got to think that probably the whole tribe doesn't speak English. You have a few guys
probably not
that
the whole
come
tribe.
in
That's
and
a good
trade,
point.
and you have a few guys who do instigate the trading. But like, if you have a whole room full of this entire tribe and you're preaching to them in English, and you're like, why aren't they listening? Why aren't they giving themselves to Christ? It's like, they're just hearing the Charlie Brown teacher. Like, what do you think they're doing? They're just like, yeah, you guys just keep talking. I'm gonna just keep scraping this thing against a pew.
Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately, the Paiutes' plan to escape did not work. At all. They were all gunned down at close range before they could even get out of the building. And then this is god awful. The women and children were then brought out of the basement one by one as a member of the Mormon militia slit their throats.
Man, that sounds
the town was all out there. Like this Mormon town was witnessing this.
Yeah.
And they didn't even know how to respond. They were just dead quiet. Reports say the town was just quiet for the rest of the day. Processing a massacre, a literal massacre.
Yeah, because they weren't witnessing a riot or an attack from the tribe. They weren't witnessing, a raiding.
They weren't even able to fight back.
Yeah, they weren't witnessing a raiding party coming in or prisoners being taken. These people they took them from their homes, forced them into a church, and then slaughtered them because they didn't, all of a sudden just submit and become members of the church.
Exactly. And before you start thinking that Mormons are just awful, this actually goes completely against the teachings of, well, at least the East Coast Mormons at the time, who encouraged peaceful relations between Mormons and natives. But apparently out west, they were kind of making their own rules. True. And I think a lot of this, from what I could find, fell on the shoulders of a few of the Mormon leaders. They were very charismatic. They were very overzealous. True. And like I said, they felt like they were getting the raw end of the deal.
Yeah.
And so they were ready to fight, dude.
There's a lot of history with the Mormon Church that you can really dive into of them them going out to Utah and getting that land. Like we could do a whole episode on the Mormon Church itself.
Oh my God,
from Joseph Smith to Brigham Young,
and it's a bloody history.
It is. They did not that church did not grow to the size that it is now just because of membership just coming. They went out. They had plenty of battles. There was a rough trek out to Utah as well.
Hell yeah, it was. But this massacre had set the tone in the area. and certainly changed the dynamics between Paiutes and Mormons, obviously.
It's a different dynamic, folks.
Right, if there were any other Paiute tribes around. But so by 1856, the Mormons had control over this little area that no one else seemed to want, and they were even deeded the land by the U.S. government for their new state, in which the U.S. government decided to call Ute. Utah.
I bet they said Ute, and someone went, "Aw," and they're like,
yeah.
All right, whatever.
Yeah,
Utah.
we'll go with that. No, they did that shit on purpose because it was obviously named after the violent Mormon rivals, the Utes.
Yeah.
Which was basically just a big fuck you from the U.S. government to the Mormons.
Yeah, they also gave them Utah. I mean, Utah to this day is still just Utah. I mean,
Still Utah.
Like, I'm sorry if you live in Utah, but I'm not that sorry.
Utah's beautiful.
But that's about it.
I mean,
it's a whole lot of pretty nothing.
Nice weather. Nice weather. But either way, the Mormons would not forget this. And they had a chip on their shoulder now. They felt even more chastised and left out and ridiculed for their beliefs. And their thirst for revenge was palpable.
I like how you just got a whole state for basically free, and you're like, well, that's not enough.
That's not enough.
We don't want the state.
Right?
Why didn't you give us Florida?
It was almost like... When I talk about this next thing they did, it's almost like they were upset that people were coming to their state. They weren't upset that people were coming. They were upset that people were coming and not enjoying their state and what they had to offer and investing in their economy.
Yeah, they weren't coming and instantly being like, the Mormons are doing so well out here. We should support them. And
exactly. So what they did was they just went in over, a negative way and was like, oh, fine, don't come here. We don't want you here then.
Unless you're a Mormon.
Yeah, exactly. So when they got word of a Gentile wagon train that would be passing through Utah, they tried to convince natives, Utes, I imagine, to attack the caravan. But when they declined, they decided, hell, we'll just do it ourselves. Yeah, right? We've already massacred one group of people. How hard could it be?
Yeah, I really want to know which tribe they asked to go. It's like, hey, will you guys go do this for us?
Well, it wasn't the Paiutes.
You would hope not. You better hope. Well, and the other thing was the Utes are the ones who are usually aggressive to you.
Yeah.
So how are you going to bargain with them?
Well, because
don't hit us. How about you go hit them?
Well, they were trying to tip them off. You know what I'm saying? They were trying to say, if you go and rob this wagon train and kill these people or whatever, you can have everything that they have.
Possibly,
or whatever. But often Native Americans didn't attack wagon trains. It was just too much trouble.
And a lot of the wagon trains were mostly just families. They were like a lot of just settlers and pioneers just going out there.
Exactly.
It wasn't a militia riding across the plains.
Yeah, you mean the Mormon militia?
Pretty much,
which did ride across the plains and attack a wagon train. In Mountain Meadows, the Mormon militia attacked and killed 120 Gentile travelers. The attack was said to have been provoked by some charismatic leaders in the Mormon community. I just imagine them, give me polygamy or give me death.
Right? Give me lots of bitches or just don't give me bitches.
Just don't give me anyone. But yeah, because at the time, like I said, Mormons were being attacked by the U.S. government as well as natives, but for different reasons. The U.S. government was attacking them because of their polygamous beliefs, and polygamy was actually illegal.
Yeah,
in the United States of America,
isn't it still? I believe, or in most of the country.
I think freedom of religion.
No, okay. I really
applies.
don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know.
I'm not a veterinarian. I have no fucking idea.
I'm not a rocket scientist.
But as tragic as it was, this is the very world that Butch Cassidy would enter. Yep.
Great start right there. That's a great start to life. Just a bloody plane battle.
You're part of these people. Not as much as you think, though. His family were Mormon for convenience, but I'll get into that more. So Cassidy was the oldest of 13 children. His parents were Mormon, obviously.
13 children.
Yeah, and had come to Utah from England in 1856.
Okay.
Yep. So he was born Robert LeRoy Parker.
Leroy
Parker. In Beaver, Utah on April 13th, 1866. He shares a birthday with Ron Perlman.
Okay. I like
Ty
this one.
Dollar Sign.
I don't know this one.
I'm not very familiar, but I have heard the name plenty of times.
Okay.
Yeah, hip-hop artist. And then Glenn Howerton, who is Dennis from Always Sunny.
Ooh. Dennis is a bastard man.
He is. Indeed.
Dennis is a bastard man.
Yes, Glenn Howerton. Hilarious. One of the most cringy characters in history. That character has not aged well, but damn, it's funny.
That's probably the reason it's like, oh my God, this is never going to age well. Do it harder.
Right? At that point, he's like, fuck it.
Do it more.
Right? But Butch's parents, Maximilian and Ann Parker, I love that his dad was named Maximilian because I just never imagined anyone named Maximilian that just wasn't filthy rich.
Or just, or like Greek. Or something, or Italian, like a Roman citizen named Maximilian. But
even that, he's got to be royalty or something, right?
Yeah,
He's got to be
England.
Rich. Yeah, and he's poor.
Yeah,
and he was
from England,
and he was poor for his whole damn life. Like they never got ahead.
No, they're basically dirt farmers.
Butch really didn't either. And we'll talk more about that either. But Butch had some habits. But his parents, Maximilian and Anne Parker, were Mormons, but more for convenience. They didn't practice polygamy, and although Maximilian was a member of the Mormon militia, he did so for consistent and guaranteed pay and housing, not out of conviction. And I know what you're thinking. No, he was not present at any other of those 2 massacres, although in his memoirs, which he wrote himself, he did have a few scuffles with natives. True. So not saying he didn't take native life or lives in general, but he was not at the Wagon Train Massacre or the Paiute Massacre.
No.
So... Anywho, the Parkers moved over the mountains to Circleville in 1879, and young Roy, which is what his family called him, and that's what we'll call him until he takes on his new name.
I love the name Circleville. Like that's just a great town name because they circle the wagons. And they're like that's how they probably just started. They're like, all right, circle the wagons.
Yeah.
All right, this is our new town.
This is Circleville.
Circleville.
Circleville. Yep, I like it.
Damn it, Henry, you are creative, son of a bitch.
Right. Sure beats Triangleville out there. Jackknifed my wagon 7 times trying to pull in. Geometry joke. I don't know if that's going to land.
It's the strongest shape in nature.
Right. But anyways, young Roy, which is what his family called him, worked in ranches across western Utah, and when he wasn't up to his usual hijinks, of course, apparently he was quite the prankster, pulling stunts for the amusement of his neighborhood. One time in particular, his sister Lula remembers him stealing wine and then putting it out for the chickens to drink. And then he just sit back and reveled as his mother and sister just laughed at the drunk chickens just staggering around the yard.
That is just such a thing we would see around here.
Just somewhere
really where we live.
I really want to give my chickens like some wine now and just see what happens.
Take the whiskey out there and pour it in soak the corn in whiskey for a little while.
What's interesting is where he got this wine, though. It's left out of a lot of things, but his parents had a neighbor who was a Gentile. He wasn't a Mormon. So
I said Mormons would not have wine in their house. So.
No, exactly. He was a Gentile. He had the wine, but they also didn't respect him because he wasn't Mormon. So they basically let Butch or Roy at the time just fucking take shit from him or whatever. Like, oh, you stole old such and such's wine again.
Jesus.
Yeah, they just he didn't matter.
He wasn't a real person. He's not a Mormon. So
dude, they just called that good fun back then.
Yeah, whatever's his stuff that's our stuff now.
Exactly.
Whatever you can make off with your hands.
Exactly. And Butch would also do other things like tie strings to katydids and race them, which seems pretty harmless until he would start like a betting ring around them.
Yeah, man, this kid's ready to go. This kid's an organizer,
dude,
right?
What you realize is from a young age he was addicted to gambling.
Yeah, this kid's he is an organizer though. Like he is ready. Like anytime he can put some people together in a room, and be like, all right, here's the plan, and how are we gonna make some money off of this? I got a plan. He from a young age
he was a gambler and a hustler, and that's just. It gets left out of a lot of his biographies. A lot of things you read, they don't talk about how he gambled everything away.
Yeah, they talk about his vices.
They do mention how he went from rich to poor and things like that, but they never mention why.
The economy was in shambles. It was the stock market. No, I think it was gambling.
Yeah, it was gambling.
It was the whores and the money.
Yeah. It was all gambling, man. He made big bets, and when he didn't have money, he would bet his shit. So nothing stopped him. But overall,
if he didn't have money, he would just be like, "All right, I will have some money in about." What time's that train coming?
Right. When's that next payroll deposit? But overall, things didn't go as planned in Circleville for the Parker family. Roy's dad, Maximilian, lost land to another homesteader in a property rights dispute, and honestly wasn't around much before that anyway because he was always having to job himself out, as well as Anne, his mother, for up to other farms to do work because they weren't good farmers. They came from England. They live in an urban setting in England. They didn't know how to farm the land. So, they just weren't very successful on their own.
True.
So his dad wasn't around much because of that. And teenage Roy ended up looking to a local rancher that some people described as shady. Maybe outside the law in some aspects. But anyway, his name was Mike Cassidy.
So, Mike Cassidy, I did see that that was that reason where his dad lost that property dispute. It was a Mormon judge, like a Mormon bishop or whatever, who made the decisions.
Very good,
and
Andy.
because his dad wasn't as active of a Mormon, like you said, he was a Mormon of convenience. He wasn't very active in the church.
Yeah,
he wasn't
they can tell.
He wasn't a very active member of the church. That the church or that Mormon bishop or whatever basically just said, like, well, he's a better Mormon, so he gets the land.
Yep.
And that basically what they kind of alluded to is what started Butch Cassidy's kind of anger and frustration towards authority and towards his people just making rules for rules' sake. He just didn't make sense to him.
You know what's even crazier? You're mostly right, but the other man wasn't a Mormon at all.
Really?
But the judge respected him more because he didn't claim to be.
Oh,
he was a Gentile man who just had a dispute, and the judge was like, you know what, you're better than our fucking fence rider over here.
Yeah,
which a lot of religions say. You know, if you are lukewarm, I will spew you out of my mouth. How many times have you heard that phrase?
From who?
From the Bible.
Oh no, that was not. No, I've heard that from other people, but not
Well, get ready though. But Mike Cassidy, he catches a lot of shit though. He really does. He catches a lot of shit in as far as being the bad influence on Roy, and I just don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
I don't either. I kind of got the what was the rancher who kind of took Billy the Kid in? That guy. It kind of gave me that kind of vibes. Like
yeah.
He kind of gave him a job.
Can't think of his name right now, but yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about though?
Yeah.
It's like he kind of gave him a job, gave him a purpose, taught him skills, taught him how to use a horse, a lasso, like taught him how to live out in the West.
Yeah.
So it's like they kind of give him like this bad rep that he was trained to be an outlaw, but not really.
You know, this could be from his family members too, and family members are always looking for a reason to state why their family member isn't really bad, or a reason why they are. And it ain't got nothing to do with family or genes, right? It's always some bad influence in their life that just wouldn't go away. But Mike Cassidy was a cowboy by trade, outlawing cattle rustler by choice. And seems to have indoctrined the restless Roy into the business of stealing livestock. Or did he?
Yeah, like I said, he was not a full-time cattle rustler. He had a ranch. Like, he had his own cattle, too. So.
But he did a lot of nefarious things as well.
Yeah, like I said, you find a stray cow.
But look, before he even met Mike Cassidy, before Roy even met Mike Cassidy, it was 5 years before, to be exact. He was 12 years old. Roy broke into a clothing store that was closed, took a pair of pants, and left a signed IOU on the counter. The store owner later called the police, and they went to the Parker home and made Roy's dad, Maximilian, pay for the pants and talk to his boy. You know, some real Andy Griffith shit. Like, don't you do that now, boy. I'm gonna get you good talking to.
Is he just wearing the pants still, though? Like, we're going to need those pants back. Like, that's kind of the bigger thing. It's like, well, he's already...
No, his dad paid for the pants. His dad paid for the pants.
Yeah, it's like we're gonna pay for the pants. You're gonna give us the. Well, he's already wearing the pants. Let's just. All right, I'll pay for the pants.
Yeah, but that wasn't an easy thing for his dad though. Like I said, they didn't have a lot of money, and he has 13 kids on a failing farm. Like paying for these pants, not first on his list of things he wants to do. But what was interesting was the way Roy reacted to this crime. Okay, he just couldn't see how his actions were wrong. He had a need and he met it. And not to mention, the store clerk got their money after all. So, you know, to him, he's like, what's the big deal? And this is one thing that the movie got right.
Yeah.
There was a lot of scenes where Butch is portrayed as this thin-skinned, narcissistic. Yeah. It's like, is he charming? Absolutely. Is he a good guy? I still think so. Yes. I think overall, he done way more good than bad. But his inability to see how anyone could hate him. I mean, it's just like anytime even if there was like a lawman after him, he's like, why are they sending him after me?
Yeah, that was one thing about him, like getting.
I'm not that bad. I'm not. It's like, dude, you're stealing thousands and thousands of dollars weekly. Like,
yeah, I think I read
you're hitting him where it hurts.
They were like, he was so astonished when the first time he gets arrested, when they set him up for something, and he was like, why are you mad at me? I was just doing this. And they were like, well, they were stolen horses. He's like, what? You were selling them to me? I didn't. I was just buying a horse.
Yeah. And he would
like,
also.
Why is this a crime?
He would also pull this con that when he stole horses, he would get a friend of his, a distant friend or an acquaintance, to fill out a fake bill of sale.
True.
So if somebody did catch him with the horses, he'd be like, no, I got them from George Williams, and he lives over there. And then, the posse was either too lazy to go check it out, or they just took his word for it.
Yeah.
Because he was charming. I mean, he's a nice dude. And cattle and horses got stole all the time.
Yeah. Or they just wandered off.
Yeah. all the time.
Those ranches are huge. That's a lot of fence to maintain.
Absolutely. So anyway, when he met Mike Cassidy, he already had some authority issues, as we alluded to. So it's unfair to put all the blame on the cattle stealing Mike Cassidy. But to be honest, back then, stealing livestock was the equivalent of stealing your neighbor's outdoor cat, honestly. I mean, you put some food out, and they come over that way, and now you got a cat.
Like I said, if one just kind of made its way through the fence, that's...
Yeah,
Well, that was mine,
like
I
Andy
guess.
said, cattle ranged all over the place, from property to property, and it wasn't abnormal to maybe shut up a few of the neighbors' cattle, and then tomorrow maybe they scoop up a few of yours, you know, and maybe sometimes the cattle were redirected. It's a word I like to use in cattle theft in this show.
Redirected.
They were redirected, and, you know, it's one of those Wild West unspoken rules that people just begrudgingly followed. They just didn't like it, but they're like, I like it when it goes my way.
Yeah, true. This isn't Yellowstone now. There's not the bunch of sheriffs walking around. just ready to
Exactly.
go. Kevin Costner's not keeping track of all this.
Yeah, exactly. Now, another interesting tidbit about Mike Cassidy is he's often portrayed much older than Roy, although he was only a year older, dude. Roy was 17, he was 18 when they met, and he and Roy were more like best friends than father and son. Some people even thought they may have been romantically involved, since they were always together. One of Roy's sisters claims to have heard them in the stables on a few occasions, making noises that made her, we say, raise an eyebrow.
Hey, man, he's charming as fuck. Charming's charming, all right? Charming is charming. I'm just...
That's another thing, and you'll find it throughout studying Butch Cassidy. Butch Cassidy was, at a minimum, bisexual.
Yeah.
At a minimum. He may have been homosexual, because there's a lot of people, it's like, how did someone like this never have that one woman that stands out? Yes, he had lovers that we
Different
think.
towns or companions.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that we think he had, but he never had that woman like Sundance did. He had Etta Place. He never had that person that was just his soulmate.
And like
So-
like you said, he was always gambling all his money away. He wasn't going to the whorehouse and just
Right.
spending it all there all night and drinking himself to death. Like, no, he was just
Exactly.
gambling it because that was more exciting.
Exactly. And although he can't, like, let's say he was gay, he still couldn't just go out with his partner and like make out in a saloon. Like, he didn't have that kind of freedom.
No, not here. No.
But interesting enough, the mindset around sexuality was pretty relaxed. It was more like matter of fact. People saw sex as sex. They didn't question or think about someone different based on their sexual preferences, and especially not cowboys on the lam.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you need body heat. You can't run that fire all night, and one thing leads to another, and it's like I said, they didn't look down on each other for it. It was just a part of life. It was a part of keeping each other company, finding solace. Like, Brokeback Mountain, that shit happened. That shit happened all the time, man.
my body's telling me yeah.
They're not making that movie from nowhere, man.
No,
that
that's what I'm
idea
saying. You
didn't
gotta-
come out of thin air.
You got cowboys trekking
Yeah.
cattle hundreds of miles sometimes across these plains together, and there's just a few
Yeah.
guys doing it. They don't have, they're not bringing their whole families with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, some stuff happens, man.
Yeah, and he was very close, like we said, to Mike Cassidy. Close enough to take his last name. I mean, whatever. I'm just saying, when you think of him as a father figure, it makes a lot more sense, right? Like, oh, he looked up to him, but he wasn't.
He wasn't
That's-
that much
that's-
older. Yeah.
That's what makes it interesting, and you see why historians like to portray the age gap, because if they don't, then you have to assume that they had some type of relationship.
Yeah, it doesn't portray the same, legend as well.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So anyway, at the age of 18, I got something to read for you, Andy.
Okay.
At the age of 18, Roy, probably on the run from the crimes committed with Mike Cassidy, or maybe alone, who knows, left the family home, and he left a note for his mother. You want to read it, Andy?
I think so. You
right.
give your best Arthur Morgan.
Go ahead, Arthur. He was only 18. So I don't know.
So yes, this is how 18-year-olds sounded back in the Old West.
It's practically 44 now.
Ma, there's not much for me here. No future. Pay in Utah's low. You know that. Maybe $20, $30 a month. With board, and the board's not much to brag about in most places. There's no excitement around here. I'm not a kid anymore, Ma.
Obviously.
Gotta be thinking about my future.
Yes, you do, Roy.
Tell my sisters not to touch my stuff while I'm gone.
Tell Mike I hope he's doing well.
Delete my browser history.
Right. But anywho, by 1984, Roy was, let's call it, redirecting cattle full time. And his life on the lam had begun. And he soon took on the name Butch Cassidy.
Butch Cassidy. I heard the Butch was more of like a nickname because he had taken some odd jobs. It may have been because he was a butcher's assistant.
It was indeed. I'm getting to it.
Yeah, he was like because they didn't say like Butch was just it wasn't part of his name either. It was
No.
Cassidy. Yeah, I get that. Where'd Butch come from?
Well, can't you tell I'm a pretty butchly man, don't you think?
And that's the irony of it. He wasn't. But yeah, so he took the name Butch Cassidy, most likely in honor of Mike Cassidy. Well, at least in regards to the last name, right?
Yeah.
His first name was formed during more of a progression. First, he was called Roy, and then he was called Bob, and then he was called Bud, and then eventually Butch. And here's a quote from Butch regarding the name. He says, quote, actually, read that
All
again,
right,
Butch, will you?
Hold on.
Butch, how'd you get that name, Butch?
Well, I took a job in Rock Springs in the butcher shop when I
Yeah.
needed to lay low for a while. Matt Warner.
Yeah.
He's a member of my gang. He nicknamed me Butch.
Oh, that's some
He
bitch.
thought it was a big joke.
Oh, that's real funny, real clever.
It's a sling blade.
He's funny, ha ha. It's not funny queer.
And people were loose with names back there. If you got called something like twice, that was your name now.
Yeah,
you
to
know
an
what I mean?
extent.
It was like, and then the spellings of Cassidy changed all the time. I mean, it was people were
isn't
just
it the-
loose with names, bro.
I think the headstone at their death site actually has a K on it. I'm pretty
Does
sure.
it?
I think the one in Bolivia or something like that has a K, and it's like,
well, there you go.
see?
I mean, there's a million different spellings of it. Like I said,
Yeah.
people they wrote down whatever they wanted. They were loose with names back then.
he was Jerry Larry Rary or whatever from Parks and Rec.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry Larry.
Jerry Larry.
Yeah.
But Butch was known as a Robin Hood, nonetheless, out of all the names, of the Western frontier. He was standing 5'9" and weighing 155 pounds. He was actually a larger specimen of the American
Daunting
male back
5'9".
then. Yeah, right? Considered
Towering 5'9".
155 pounds, right? I mean, he was stocky even, right? About the size of Conor McGregor, fighting weight.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, about the size of Conor McGregor. But the average height of the American males, this is an interesting fact for you, actually dipped in the late 1800s from 5'9" to 5'6".
So if you guys
It's
were
the
born
only
around
time in
that
American
time,
history.
you guys have been pretty tall right there around that time.
Right. But yeah, it's the only dip in American history because even if you Google it now, you know, obviously according to Google, they say that the average height of the American male is 5'9" again. So, you know, Butch would just be average now, apparently.
I'm so abnormal.
You are a giant. Well, I mean, shit, we're both over 6 foot. We feels weird.
Shrek.
I don't know. I find it hard to believe. I mean, I'm 6'1", and when I go out, I don't feel tall. I don't feel freakishly tall.
Yeah.
You know? But, I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. But Butch would often rob trains and take the haul to the nearest town, where he and his gang would buy drinks for the locals and really just live it up, like most outlaw gangs did.
Yeah,
you know,
got a bunch of
that's
money,
what
just
you did.
Throw it around. You weren't putting it in savings.
No, they're carrying it around, and it's like rubbing blisters on their sides. No joke. Like their belts and these special saddlebags that they made, or these belts that they made to carry coins, got so damn heavy. They literally would bet each other. There was times where Butch would bet Sundance something he knew he would lose, so he could give him his money. Like he was literally like, "You carry it." He's like, "Oh no."
I'll rebet you again when we get there.
Double or nothing, buddy.
Yeah, we'll make another bet once we get there. But no,
Exactly. But Cassidy was called a big dumb kid who liked to joke. And I think in that way, the movie really portrayed him really well. I think Paul Newman did a good job as far as the personality and what he had control over. The movie was somewhat enjoyable. It was funnier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
A lot funnier. And we'll talk more about that at the end. We're going to talk about the film and things that are wrong with it. I got a list, and I'm anxious to get Andy's opinion.
Okay.
But his friend Josie Bassett made that comment about him being a big dumb kid who liked to joke. And in 1886, after a stint in jail, 1896, my dyslexic ass. After a stint in jail, Cassidy went right back to his old ways. And it was sometime after his release when Cassidy met an East Coast-born former cowboy turned outlaw named Harry Longaball.
Longaballs.
AKA the Sundance Kid.
He just came in tapping. He's like, "Hey, Butch, these are my skills, Butch. I'm the distraction, Butch. You robbed that train."
He was a good shot, apparently, if you believe the movie.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Cassidy now had a posse of outlaws who liked to rob banks and trains and also liked to party. During one celebration, the members of the Wild Bunch dressed as waiters. Now, I didn't think this was very funny at first until I found this quote from Ann Bassett. I almost didn't even put it in the timeline because I'm like, dressed as waiters? Oh, how fun. We're really having a good time today, fellas. You want to go fill up someone's water? Like,
just more bread.
Motherfucker.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't sound like
bread. I
right.
swear.
You're American outlaw. You're outlaws, and then you're gonna go, and this is how you're gonna celebrate. It don't make any sense to me.
Why does our waiter smell like pig shit?
Right.
So dirty.
But Ann Bassett, friend, lover, and outlaw herself of Butch Cassidy. This is Ann Bassett. If he did have a love, it would be Ann Bassett. Okay, but still nothing like what Sundance had with Etta Place. But here's her quote. Or do you want to do an Ann Bassett impersonation?
I can do it. I think I can do an Ann Bassett.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, is this the friend and lover? Okay.
It is.
He was a friend and a lover, an outlaw.
Oh, no, that's the description of Ann Bassett.
Poor Butch.
Next line. There
He
you
could
go.
perform such minor jobs as robbing banks, holding up pay trains without the flicker of an eyelash, but serving coffee at a grand party. That was something else. The blood-curdling job almost floored him. He became panicky and showed that his nerve was completely shot to bits. The boy went into a huddle in the kitchen and instructed Butch in the more formal art of filling coffee cups at the table.
Right.
This just shows how etiquette can be put fear into brave men's hearts.
I just love that she finds this amusing.
Yeah.
Apparently, Butch was filling people's coffee and then trying to carry multiple cups of coffee to the table, if you didn't understand that very sophisticated Western woman that Andy was doing.
Oh yeah, she was a madam. She was actually
absolutely.
knighted. She was
I think the feather in her hair was just like...
yeah, she was
like
dame.
Yeah, no doubt. So, but regardless of the fact that Butch didn't know how to serve coffee, in 1889, he took his Wild Bunch into the big leagues, successfully robbing the San Miguel Valley Bank in Telluride with associates Matt Warner, who gave him his nickname, and another crazy motherfucker named Tom McCarty. All right, so we're going to take a little break from the Telluride robbery and talk a little bit about these guys.
I do have a cool thing before you take a break from Telluride. I like
Okay.
the name
Before the break.
Telluride. Did you hear where that name came from?
Telluride.
Yeah, Telluride. They were just shortened Telluride.
Well, it was a Sin City, man.
Yeah.
It was a Sin City of the day. It really was. Yeah.
Into the mouth of hell.
But yeah, how Butch met these two characters is quite an interesting story. All right. So Butch was in an old saloon in Telluride when Matt Warner walked in bragging about a horse that he was entering in a race later that day, and he was taking bets.
Oh.
Okay. And now Butch heard bet. He's like, huh? Say what now?
You have my interest.
Say what now?
Did that Leo DiCaprio thing. Right. Now you have my curiosity. Or what?
Exactly. Now, this horse was a mare named Betty, and she was fast as hell. But Betty didn't really fit the bill in terms of a racehorse, in neither size nor gender, for that matter. But she was a sleeper.
Always bet on Betty.
That's right. So naturally, a lot of ears perked up and wanted a piece of this action. Butch couldn't help but call Warner over and discuss what he thought would be sure winnings. Unfortunately for Butch, he didn't have much cash on him at the time, so he put up a couple horses and cattle. Like I said, if he didn't have anything, he'd bet his whole outfit.
And let's also remember that Butch is very smart when it comes to horses. Like he has an eye for horses. Like when he worked on those ranches, he learned them pretty well. Like
Absolutely.
That's what they always talked about. Like he always knew the best horses to pick for his gang. He always knew the best horses to bet on. So like he sees this horse, he's like, I know everything about this horse already.
And that was his downfall. But he bet his horses, some cattle, and some equipment, most likely guns or something like that, against Warner's equally valuable outfit, basically, of livestock and weapons. So here's what's crazy. After they settled on the terms of the bet, Warner then asks Butch if he'd like to be a judge for the race. And Butch is like, wait, you want someone who you're betting against to decide the outcome?
You want me to be a ref? All right.
Warner replies, I'd rather have a straight shooting cowboy like you as a judge than I would have anyone else.
You want me, the person you're playing against, to be the rep? What is this, the Super Bowl?
Yeah, what is this, scripted? I've never seen so much shit about a scripted Super Bowl except for this year. Jesus Christ. But anyways, but it didn't really matter. Betty didn't leave much open for interpretation anyway. She's a badass. She won the race by a good margin, but not too much though, because, they didn't want to discourage future hustles. Races.
Just like,
races.
Slow down.
Yeah, yeah, right. You're a literal lap ahead. Slow down.
It's like the Incredibles when Dash is running at the end. It's like, go. Okay, bring it back.
Right. So like Butch was a good loser, and as promised, he marched his entire outfit up to Matt Warner, as he was a man of his word. But Warner declined, and instead asked Butch to travel with him and run this little charade all over the West.
I think we can make a pretty penny together. What you think?
And, in case things go south, it's nice to have a straight shooting cowboy around too, as well.
Also, we have a really fast horse. We need to make a getaway.
That's true. But before the young Wild Bunch took off, I'm already calling them the Wild Bunch, look at me. Before the young Wild Bunch took off, they made a stop to see a friend of Warner's, Tom McCarty. I wish they wouldn't have. McCarty was once married to Warner's sister, and apparently it didn't end well. But McCarty and Warner were still together.
How bad was this man's sister if he's like, I'm going to go hang out with Tom. I know what Tom, like, we know what Tom is like now. It's like, how bad was your sister if you were like, I like Tom better than you still?
Maybe they were friends first, right? That's usually how it goes. But Tom was definitely the most hardened criminal of the bunch, okay? And he had done multiple jail stints. Others said that he had a coldness in his eyes that not even other outlaws had.
This is Tom. Tom, say hi.
Right? Just freezes people. But anyways, old hothead McCarty, Warner, and Butch had almost exhausted their little horse racing scam with Betty and had to think outside the box. So their genius idea was to run the exact same scam, but on Native Americans.
Switch the audience up, flip
Boom.
it, go around over here.
Keep doing the same show.
Move it over, new neighborhood, new neighborhood, new crowd, hot crowd.
That's right. We could just translate our show into different languages and then just put out the same episode in different places.
Right? Yeah. Like Google Translate going?
That's right. So there was a settlement of Navajo Indians nearby, and they hadn't yet heard of Betty's exploits, obviously. And of course, they had numerous horses that they were quite proud of as well. Like one that they named, no joke, Whiteface.
I'm surprised I didn't just shoot that horse after they named it.
His name is Whiteface.
It's like, this one's named Whiteface. Someone just shoots it. It's like, why? Oh, sorry, I thought you... My bad. We were just naming it.
Apparently the horse, or some sources called it a pony, had a white face. So, but anyways, it was decided that Whiteface was going to race Betty, and winner takes both horses. And the Cowboys also put up some money, and the Navajos put up their hand-woven blankets.
We're doing this Fast and Furious style, putting them pink slips down.
That's right. Horse for horse, baby. They're not worried about Betty losing.
Racing for keys, baby. Right? Or reins, baby.
That's right. Reins,
racing for reins, baby.
Racing for stirrups. Something.
Saddles.
Saddles, there we go.
You can be your saddle, Butch.
But you can probably guess how this went. Betty whooped that ass.
Oh, Betty.
By such a margin that the Navajo realized that they had been hustled. Betty didn't win by the right margin this time. I don't know if whoever they had riding Betty just couldn't help themselves. I don't know what.
Somebody had to have this horse checked for steroids.
That's right.
A performance enhancement check.
Exactly.
Random drug test on Betty. So they're just curling in the background. What?
Right.
Just a horse doing fucking just dips.
Right. I love how dips is your exercise. You always go to dips.
Yeah, it's just easy.
Just everything dips.
Because it's easy. When you're sitting in a chair, it's an easy...
Is that your favorite exercise?
Well, no, it's just an easy visual thing. You can just see me doing the dips. I'm doing the dips.
That's true. You can't exactly get in the floor and demonstrate push-ups, I guess.
No, you can't. Well, for more than one reason. Let's just keep going.
But regardless, the Navajos refused to give up their horses, or their horse, Whiteface, or their blankets. And this infuriated Tom McCarty, as he grabbed a Navajo man and began to beat him with his bullwhip. And
Ow.
the other members of the Wild Bunch actually had to pull him off. And McCarty, said he was calm, but he obviously wasn't, because he then drew his pistol and shot and killed another Navajo man who claimed that he was acting suspicious. McCarty claimed the Navajo man was acting suspicious. That's why he shot him.
One of those greats, like, I'm calm.
Yeah.
The fuck you're looking at? Just charging,
Exactly.
what are you fucking just shot somebody because he was looking at him weird.
Exactly. And he was paranoid that they were going to retaliate for him beating one of their tribe members for no reason, other than to just lead their horse back to their thing. That's all this member was trying to do.
Yeah.
So, now, to set the scene, there were 5 members of the Wild Bunch there that day, standing against nearly 200 Navajo warriors. But surprisingly, the Navajo must have thought that they just weren't worthy of the fight, or there was enough bloodshed or whatever. But they just picked up their fallen soldier and they carried him back to their village.
It probably wasn't worth it. I mean, you have to think that of these Navajo, if the word gets back that they just slaughtered, 5 white men out in the woods, it doesn't look good for them regardless of
it doesn't. Even if they win, you're right. They still lose.
Even if they were attacked, it still looks like the Navajo slaughtered 5 white men in the woods.
Exactly. So. And yeah, you got 200 men, but you also have 5 cowboys with at least 6 bullets each. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they gonna get some rounds off, and they're standing within talking distance. Yeah. It's not like you're shooting any range here, so they knew that there would be some more casualties. Yeah. If they engaged, it was just a lose-lose for the Navajo.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it.
Right. So they picked up their fallen warrior. They went back to their village, and the cowboys just kind of left too. The Wild Bunch, they just sauntered off, heads hung low. They felt like shit, especially Butch, because he didn't like to kill people. That was his rule. He's like, we don't kill.
Yeah, he's just walking back, just looking at Tom. You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I told you.
They didn't even take Betty. They left Betty. They left Whiteface. They left the blankets. They left the money. They left everything. They're like, fuck it. We're just out of here.
I feel like Betty actually just chose to stay. She was like, nah, guys, I'm done with you. Yeah. I'm out.
I just can't. I can't get on with this, guys.
I told you what my line was.
That's right.
You crossed it. I'm done. I'm out.
Race hustling, that's one thing, but killing Navajos, no way, man.
No way, man.
No way.
I'm taking my free weights. Right? I'm out of here.
But anyways, all right. So now we're going to go back to the Telluride robbery. Now that you have a little more background on some of the key players.
Like Betty.
No, not Betty. Betty's not there, Andy.
Well, she's important to me.
Her life of crime is over.
She was important to me, okay?
She got out when it mattered. She got to live her life out on the range with Navajo Indians.
She got out on top. Yeah,
That's right.
She walked out a winner.
That's right. So back to the Telluride robbery. A witness recalled seeing Butch in the weeks leading up to the robbery, teaching his horse to stand calmly while he ran and vaulted into the saddle. And this was also featured in the movie. I don't know if the footage was extra. I think it's in the opening credits where you see Paul Newman just running and jumping on the horse like a few times, like over and over again.
Blooper reel kind of deal.
Yeah.
Seems like a very Robin Hood Men in Tights scene or something like that. Just like, stand still.
But Butch claimed that he did it to save time, but he was just a showman, dude.
He's just trying to look cool. Yeah. That's the equivalent of the Dukes of Hazzard sliding across the hood of the General Lee.
You're not saving
He was just trying to get in the General Lee without opening the door.
Exactly. There's also accounts of him riding a horse around a tree and shooting all 6 bullets into the same hole. That's just one of those things I included because I don't believe it. It's just like, okay, maybe he did, but I mean, it's just one of those far-fetched things that typically gets thrown into a cowboy tale.
I heard that was actually one of the things that Mike Cassidy, when he was teaching him how to live on the ranch and stuff, and he was teaching him how to ride a horse, he was teaching him how to shoot, and that was one of his like exercises that he did. He's like, gallop around the tree and try and see if you can shoot that target. And that was he did. He's like, he actually hit all the target, but it was like a riding exercise he was doing with Mike Cassidy.
Well, shit far, boy.
Yeah, he said when he was learning how to shoot and ride, that was the exercise that Cassidy put him through.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Oh, Mike Cassidy, man. He had quite an influence on him.
Yeah, like I said, he knew how to handle a horse. But Butch Cassidy was like a very good rider, very good marksman from his horseback. So, yeah.
I know. But for this Telluride, for this to hell you ride bank robbery,
the hell we ride.
Butch and the boys would be dressed to the nines. Fancy clothes, shiny boots. They look more like they were going to a dance than a robbery. Yeah. And that's the way they wanted it, honestly, because that's how you blend in these big towns. They blended in perfectly with all the honest cowboys coming into town because they all dress the same way, trying to get the attention of the ladies. You know what I'm saying? So they just look like they were there to have a good time. They didn't look like they were there for a fight. Let's put it that way.
I kind of think of like the John Dillinger kind of the American gangster robberies. Yeah. They all come in there wearing their suits and stuff. So they just look like they're coming to make a withdrawal.
Right. But Butch and his pals also constructed special leather bags to carry the loot, which I alluded to earlier. And they even laid out an escape route in advance, bolstered by relay teams of fresh horses. Now, Butch gets a lot of the credit for putting together a lot of this stuff, but actually old Hothead McCarty planned a lot of the escape routes and the relays.
That's because he was the one who had the more extensive criminal record than Butch did. He's like, yeah, we probably won't be like, if we can't try and make this run on the horses, it didn't work for me last time. We should put another horse down there.
Yeah.
He's learning from his own mistakes.
Exactly.
And his friend's mistakes. Like I said, he's been in the game for a while.
That's right. So as it went down, the bunch waited across the street from the San Miguel Valley Bank and watched as the only armed guard went on lunch. This left no one but the teller. So the men stroll across the street, waving and being cordial to the townsfolk, of course.
Good day, sir.
And then right before they enter the bank, they throw up the bandanas. Hothead McCarty walks up to the teller, slides a note across the counter with print so small that the teller has to lean over to read it.
Got to put his bifocals on.
Yeah, what does that say there?
How did you even write that small?
But when he does, McCarty smashes his face into the counter. That's actually kind of funny.
That's actually
actually kind of funny.
Pretty good move. Like, here, read this.
Again, McCarty, the experienced criminal, right? He then pulls out his revolver and threatens the man, saying, "Do what I say or feel the pain of instant death."
Then that wouldn't be painful.
And that is exactly what I was about to bring up.
That instant death wouldn't be painful.
But that's what he said.
God damn
we
it.
didn't say he was the smartest criminal.
He's not
Andy.
the smartest.
He's not the smartest.
He's not the smartest. I bet somebody was like, "Don't talk. How about you just don't talk,
dude? Instant death. That's like the nicest thing you could do for him.
How about you?
Really?
How about we talk? Okay, Tom.
Shoot him in the knee. Threaten the knee, man. Something.
Take an ear. Take a tooth.
God almighty.
God.
This guy.
Why do we let him
Tell him to
talk?
hold his hand up. Shoot his fingers off. Buster Scruggs style.
My God. I thought you were the fucking. I thought you had the skills for this, man.
Right. But regardless, the Wild Bunch made out with $22,350 that day and had officially crossed the line, though, from semi-outlaw, which would include maybe a chance for redemption.
Yeah, the cattle rustling, maybe.
Right, maybe you go work in the military, something like that, you somehow, to official outlaw. So if they were caught now, it was punishable by death if they don't get shot on sight. Like, that's their new reputation.
Yeah. Because we talked about that, me and Michael together. It's like, these bounty hunters, these people who are the deputies who are hunting for them, they're not against just, putting a bullet in someone's back and throwing them over the back of their horse. Once you ride back into town, they fought back, had to put them down.
Exactly.
It's an easy, dark world out
there. They
there.
wanted to put them down, man.
Exactly.
All the trouble they caused them, all the money that they've stolen. Mm-hmm. So Cassidy, with nowhere to go but bad, Cassidy and the Wild Bunch's notoriety grew as they continued to rack up around $35,000 per robbery.
It's a nice, pretty paycheck.
It was just going up, man. Although historians think the Wild Bunch probably only robbed 4 banks, 4 express trains, and a coal company payroll office, they were soon being blamed for every robbery in the area.
Yeah, it's easy just to, as long as you got one gang that's notable, you can just add them to the things. Like, you heard the same thing with Billy the Kid, where it was like, oh yeah, he's killed all these people. He's like,
yeah,
I wasn't even there.
I know.
It's like,
but because of the success of the robberies, people just assumed if no one was caught, it was Cassidy. Because he was so successful. He planned carefully, and then he also had people like McCarty. I mean, as asshole as he was, man, he was still good at planning. He was good at planning, and that's what made these things successful. Here's an excerpt from Richard Patterson's book, Butch Cassidy, A Biography. He says, little was left to chance. Butch and a few selected gang members would spend days, sometimes weeks, scouting a robbery site and the best escape route. Wisely, they always chose the summer months for all their holdups when the weather was favorable for eluding posses. It appears that Cassidy was also avoid killing, although shots were fired during escapes. Butch was never known to have shot anyone during a holdup. The closest Butch ever came to harming a robbery victim was when he used explosives to force his way into an express car, which is portrayed in the movie in a pretty funny way. A few express messengers were injured in the blast, but none seriously. The gang also warned them that they would use dynamite and that they would be wise enough to protect themselves by hiding behind the cargo.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they did warn him.
Yeah, and Butch is also, like I said, he's not the most angry or easy to anger person. In that same event, like, one of his gang members was gonna kill that person, and Butch was like, "You don't need to kill him. We already got the stuff. Like, why would you do this? Like, he's an old man who's already unconscious. Like,
yeah, exactly. But these powerful railroad companies were catching up to the Wild Bunch. They were getting tired of this shit. And some Pinkerton detective, Charlie Siringo, called Cassidy, quote, the shrewdest and most daring outlaw of the present age. I think shrewdest is a little bit harsh.
I don't think he was very shrewd.
I don't think he was very shrewd at all.
Charming as hell. Like, they always said he was literally like the life of the party. He was very charismatic.
But not if he's making your life miserable, Andy.
Very true. Yeah, I guess you were like, man, this guy's so shrewd.
Yeah. He doesn't care about me at all.
You sound shrewd.
Missed another dinner with the wife.
You sound shrewd, Charlie.
Right? Chasing his ass all over the damn desert. But I guess he would know, though, Charlie Siringo, because he did trail the gang all over the West, even posing as an outlaw to get info on the gang. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that wasn't hard to spot.
True.
But the Pinkerton detective caught a break in the year 1900 when some of the Wild Bunch was in Texas to visit their favorite brothels and blow off some steam.
I saw something about these Pinkerton guys that I didn't know. Like, I knew how big of an agency they were.
Yeah.
But like, apparently during this time, they had their own train. They had their own railway car that would be pulled along. It had a car for horses with hay and stables. Had a sleeping car, a dining car, but it was just for the Pinkertons. It had like gun windows out the side.
Yeah.
And that was how they would try to get to the different cities faster to try to get to the Outlaws where the robberies would happen.
Yeah.
They had their own fucking like armored train that was like just patrolling the West at this time.
Damn.
Like these guys were serious hunters. These were bounty hunters to an extent. I know they were, the detective agency, but these were bounty hunters, motherfucker. They were. When
they were after you, that was bad. That was bad news, man. That was bad news. But they caught a break, being the detectives, when the Wild Bunch decided to get a formal portrait taken as a joke. This picture of the Sundance Kid, Will Carver, Ben Kilpatrick, and Harvey Logan, also known as Kid Curry. We'll talk a little bit more about him. Let's talk about him at the end of the show.
All right.
We'll talk a little bit more about Kid Curry at the end. And Cassidy, of course, was a rare misstep for him. It is said a Wells Fargo agent recognized the Outlaws when the photo was displayed in the photographer's Fort Worth studio window, and it was soon on wanted posters all over the place.
Yeah, I think this was, if I remember correctly, I think this was actually Butch's idea, wasn't it, to like get a picture taken?
Probably.
Because he's kind of vain. He is
very vain, and he's very thin-skinned.
Yeah, so he likes to show off. He likes to be the center of attention to an extent. So he gets his gang together. It's like, let's all take a fancy picture. We'll all get all dressed up. We'll shave.
Yeah. Like this seems like a misstep then, but now it's great. It's the most badass picture that you could have. Now you have a picture of your gang that lives on forever, and it's easily the most famous picture in regards to Cassidy and the gang in general.
And it's a good
if you just Google Butch Cassidy, it's going to come up like within the first 10 photos probably, and like a bunch of different versions of it.
Yeah, and it's not like one of those kind of rusty tin types of Billy the Kid.
It's really good.
Or Jesse James, where it's like, I think that's the same person. No, this was such a good picture that the photographer put it up in his storefront window to be like, look how good a picture I can take.
It's a really good picture.
And the Wells Fargo employee was like, I think I've seen that guy before.
Yeah.
And that's like, it was such a good picture that it was on display for the town.
And now they had all their faces in nice, clear print to put all over the place. So yeah, it was getting pretty hard to hide.
Yeah.
But also in that same year they took the photo in 1900, Cassidy seemed to be tired of life on the run. Maybe that's why he wanted the picture, man. Maybe he was feeling sentimental.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be around anyways.
Yeah, exactly. But a lawyer claimed that Cassidy came to visit him, curious if he could get a pardon and settle down for good. And when he was told it would be impossible, Cassidy was understanding, and he said,
"You know the law, and I guess you're right. But I'm sorry it can't be fixed some way. You'll never know what it means to be forever on the dodge.
You won't.
You snowflake lawyer ass."
I heard some about this lawyer too that was actually pretty cool. This is another thing that Butch Cassidy was kind of not like famous for, but he actually had a lawyer on retainer while he was an outlaw. It wasn't like he was paying him. Like, he had apparently saved this lawyer's life in a fight, and the lawyer was like, if you ever need help, I'll defend you. And Butch Cassidy was like, I'm gonna need a lot, and just kept coming back.
I'm gonna take you up on that.
He just like kept coming back like, hey, guess who needs a defense again? Like, guess who needs a lawyer's opinion?
Yep.
But he knew this lawyer. They had a relationship for a little while as friends, but he was like one of the only outlaws who had like their own personal lawyer.
Yep, exactly. And yet his lawyer gave him another confirmation that he was going to be destined forever to be on the dark side. So with that, the Wild Bunch pulled off their last major robbery at the First National Bank of Winnemucca, Nevada on September 19th, 1900. According to Richard Patterson, Cassidy managed to charm the populace yet again. And here's an excerpt from Richard Patterson's book. You want to read that one for us, Andy?
As Richard Patterson or as Butch?
Just as Richard Patterson, I guess.
As Richard Patterson. I have no idea. Richard Patterson.
Who is this guy?
One boy, 10-year-old Vic Burton, whose father managed a CS ranch east of town where the outlaws camped, remembered Butch as a likable man with a broad grin. He said the outlaw gave him candy. Burton also has said that one day when he told Butch how much he admired his horse, Butch replied that someday he might give it to him. A few days later, Butch kept that word. Following the robbery, as the three outlaws were changing fresh horses, Butch told the cowboy he'd been attending the animals to giving his former horse to the young boy at the CS Ranch.
Why are you speaking with the diction of Patrick Warburton? That's what it sounds like to me.
Hey, Michael, it's all coming together right now. Take the poison. Goose goes poison.
Goose goes.
You asked me who Richard Patterson was? This is who Richard Patterson is.
Patrick Warburton, apparently.
This is Richard Patterson.
But the Bank of Winnemucca robbery was most likely to fund a new life in South America, far away from the Pinkerton detectives, and as the movie would allude you to believe, the Super Posse.
The Super Posse.
Right.
The Super Posse.
We got to evade the Super Posse.
You know how good of an outlaw you have to be to get a Super Posse? Yeah, Billy the Kid didn't have a Super Posse. No Jesse James Super Posse.
Right?
Nah, that's Butch Cassidy right there. He's such a good outlaw, he's got a Super Posse.
That's right. There was a tracker named Lord Baltimore. He was a Native American. That took the name Lord Baltimore, at least according to the movie. I could not find if those names were real. I found it very odd that the names were so specific and strange in the movie. So I'm like, he had to have gotten them from somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Right? So I don't know, but I could not find guaranteed information what those posse members' names were. But
no, it
still
was so
interesting.
big they couldn't even name them all.
Yeah.
Naming them all would be like a George R.R. Martin page when two parties meet. This is so-and-so, son of Loin, and the son of this, of house this.
Like a Fellowship of the Ring over here. We ain't got time for this.
I'm skipping these pages.
Right. But in 1901, Cassidy and the Sundance Kid bought property in Cholula, Argentina, under assumed names, of course. And they were joined on their new ranch by Etta Place, who was Sundance's girlfriend, or Longabao, if you guys aren't familiar. And according to some, Cassidy's unrequited love. He did have a weird relationship with Etta. I don't know if they were romantic or what, or if they had like a little threesome, a little three-way family going on here for a little while. It's weird. Even the movie portrays it odd.
Yeah, they have like a weird It's not even like sibling like. It's like close friends, but there's a little bit of tension. It's weird. But yeah, there's a good picture of Etta too that her and Longabout took right before they went down to Bolivia or something. That's like one of the only pictures of her, because after that, like, she's kind of in the wind after this.
Well, she doesn't stay long in South America.
But she was like she was with them for a pretty good amount of time off and on until this point where she kind of stays with them.
Yeah. Well, while they're living there in South America, Cassidy actually wrote back to a friend, Matilda Davis. I don't know the relation to Matilda Davis. I don't know if she was a lover or friend or relative or what. But she was back in America, and he wrote to her describing his new setup. So, Butch,
all right,
what'd you write?
Another of my uncles died and left $30,000 to our little family of three. So I took my $10,000 and I started to see a little more of the world. I visited the best cities and best parts of this countries in the South America till I got here. And this part of the country looks so good that I located, and I think for good. For I like this place better every day.
Damn good. Damn good. Also, something else worth noting, the first line, another one of my uncles died. You guys understand that, right? Like, he doesn't have any uncles.
Yeah.
Uncles aren't dying. Yeah. It's $30,000. And if you remember a little bit earlier in the show, I talked about how they were getting around $30,000 per robbery.
Yeah.
That's what happened. They made another They didn't stop once they got to Bolivia, once they got to South America. They were not really slowing down. They did slow down.
They did slow down, yeah. They tried to make it straight for a little while, but like I said, vices catch up to you.
That's right. And even in Argentina, the Wild Bunch couldn't outrun their reputation. And it wasn't long before the trio were accused of bank robberies in South America. Etta Place eventually returned to the States, and that's really the last we hear of her. And she left because of the heat that was coming.
Yeah, she
on Sundance and Cassidy, it was not looking good.
There was a storm coming. She could kind of feel that the cops were closing in. It was kind of coming down. And yeah, she just disappears. So I guess she took her share of whatever
she just went back home, man.
But yeah, nobody ever hears from her again. She probably changed her name and just kind of vanished into history.
Yep.
But yeah, she's after this moment, she's never heard from again in history.
And this is where they end up in Bolivia. And on November 6, 1908, the pair stole and were blamed for stealing payroll from a mining company's courier in San Vicente, Bolivia. A few days later, the Bolivian cavalry surrounded the house where they were staying, including the police chief, the local mayor, and they surrounded the lodging house that Butch and Sundance were hiding out in on the evening of November 6th. As they approached the house, Butch and Sundance opened fire, killing one of the soldiers and wounding another, and starting a gunfight which lasted well into the night.
They must have had a ton of ammo, like just stockpiled as well.
Well, they're not constantly shooting either.
Yeah, too.
It's just like, I think I see something. Pow, pow.
Yeah, they're not
It's just constant tension because you can't get near the windows, you can't go outside. They don't want to leave because they don't want them to run. You know what I'm saying? But either way, at around 2 a.m., during a lull in the fighting, the mayor of this town in Bolivia, said he heard a man scream 3 times. This is very specific. Then 2 shots were fired from inside the house. And it's the only testimony that we have about this moment. And I hate that it's from the mayor.
The mayor of the city who organized this.
Yes, I hate that it's from the mayor because he has every reason to lie and make it look like they didn't kill anyone, for one. I mean, I don't know. It's just the way he described it.
The criminals.
Exactly. The way he described it, it was just best case scenario for him and his posse.
Yeah, we didn't have to kill them. We didn't have to bring them in. We didn't have to do anything. They took their own lives and no one was hurt. It's just,
It just sounds weird, right?
We caught them, guys. We got them.
But regardless of what happened, the cavalry entered the house the next morning and found 2 bodies with numerous bullet wounds to the arms and legs. The man assumed to be Longabao, or Sundance, had a bullet wound in the forehead, and the man thought to be Cassidy had a bullet hole in the temple.
See, right there, it says 2 gunshots or whatever. Yeah, but they're also, the bodies are littered with bullet holes, or so they say.
I did find a lot of sources that said that they did get shot quite a few times.
Yeah,
arms, legs.
I saw one source that said definitely Sundance was shot at one point, in the middle of a firefight, and Butch actually dove out there and pulled him to safety in the middle of the fire. So, yeah, they were already wounded to an extent, by the time they came into the house.
Exactly. And as far as fake history goes, they were buried in a nearby Indian cemetery. Good night. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank God. All right. Roll the clip. Let's go ahead and close it up. Let's close it up. Lights off, okay?
Yeah. No, that's not it at all what happened. That's not at all what happened, Andy.
I didn't. Okay.
Yeah. That's not at all. Because when news made it back to the U.S. that Cassidy and Sundance had been killed, absolutely none of their friends believed the story. No one. So that means they had a reason.
Sure they did.
Exactly.
Sure they did.
Right. And sightings of Cassidy began almost immediately.
It's a ghost.
That's right.
It's a ghost.
Cassidy's nephew, Bill Bentonson, wrote a book entitled Butch Cassidy, My Uncle, where he points to around 20... right? Very clever title.
Nailed it.
Where he points to around 20 documented sightings of Cassidy after 1908. Like in 1925, where Cassidy was seen driving a shiny new Ford, grinning from ear to ear on his way to visit his family in Utah.
Mm-hmm. He has 13 or 12 other siblings as well that are out there.
And he's been on the lam for a long time, man. He wants to come back and see what's up. His sister Lula Parker Bentonson claimed that he told the family of his exploits and kept in touch with them until his alleged real death, which she says in 1937. Now, like many of the outlaws of this time, if you're wondering how this could have happened, many of the outlaws of this time, Butch Cassidy presumably lived out his life under another alias. For Butch, that alias may have been engineer William T. Phillips, who claimed he was the real Cassidy.
Okay. So I did see several reports of people of members of his family saying that he made Butch Cassidy made trips to visit members of his family throughout the years after his apparent death. And that's not just not just his nephew saying, look at my book, I saw him a bunch of times. Several members of his family have all stated, he came and visited us.
Oh yeah, and they say it matter-of-factly too. It's not
like it's a secret thing. It's like, Butch, no, he came. He had Thanksgiving with us one time.
Right. But let's look into this William T. Phillips character a little bit. So it was believed that a Spokane engineer named William T. Phillips was in fact Cassidy. He seemed to have done everything possible to encourage this theory, even writing a book called Bandit Invincible about Cassidy's exploits. And he also died in 1937, though Lula, Cassidy's sister, claimed that he was definitely not Cassidy.
Okay.
And although he may not have been Cassidy, it does appear that Phillips was an imposter, though, which is interesting.
Okay.
Historian Larry Pointer uncovered 2 mugshots, one of Cassidy and one of Phillips, so he was arrested.
Okay.
From the same exact period in Wyoming, and it appears that the 2 men probably even served time together in a penitentiary, and that Phillips may have ridden for a time with the Wild Bunch, but it was obvious that they were different people.
Okay, true.
So he actually had mugshots.
That does make sense because, we talk about the members of the Wild Bunch that are in the photo, but the Wild Bunch kind of it did have a revolving door of members.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's one thing that Butch was really good at, was picking the right men for the job he was going on. He kind of had like an Italian job kind of crew with him where he was like, all right, we got the guy with the dynamite, we got the sniper, we got everybody we need. And he had this kind of, like I said, a revolving door of criminals.
As you have to, because sometimes criminals get picked up. Sometimes members, get arrested. They shoot somebody, go to jail for life, get
kick
hung,
somebody out of the gang every once in a while.
Yeah.
Someone goes too far.
Exactly. All right, so what did happen to Butch and Sundance, right? Well, in the early 1990s, 2 bodies believed to be Cassidy and Sundance were exhumed in Bolivia, because where they said they were buried, these bodies were exhumed. DNA tests were conducted by one of the nation's best forensic anthropologists at the time, and it was determined that they were not Cassidy and Sundance.
The fuck?
Exactly.
And they got that. They have a lot of Cassidy's DNA. They have 12 more people to pull from.
Exactly. And he has relatives still alive today. According to Bill Bentonson, Cassidy's nephew, his family knew exactly where Cassidy was buried after his alleged real death in 1937. Quote, "My great-grandmother, Butch's little sister Lula, was very clear. She said that where he was buried and under what name was a family secret. That he was chased all his life, and now he had a chance to finally rest in peace. And that is the way it must be."
I mean, I can understand that. If that's kind of the story that they kind of have gotten to portray, like, you lived your whole life
if he
on the
lived,
lam, like it's kind of well-deserved.
Yeah. If he did die and make it to 37, then he lived to be in his 80s. I think he lived to be 80, early 80s at least.
Yeah,
I'm not doing the exact math, but
something about those old West Outlaws. They could apparently, if they did not die when they were young, they could make it to like 90.
Yeah.
What was that guy who was like pretending to be, or was Billy the Kid? That guy was like 92 or something. Just bushy Bill Roberts coming out of the desert.
There was a Jesse James, a guy that pretended to be Jesse James, and he lived to be like well into his 90s. I think he was like 97 when he died. It's like, okay, he's not Jesse James, but goddamn, he done something.
You were there,
right? And I shared a newspaper article a while back on a Strange Short, I think, before you joined, Andy, and I talked about Jesse James.
The dark days.
But that article was from 1941, and that man died at 97. Yeah. So, like, it could have worked. Mm-hmm. It could have actually worked. So, well, do you want to talk about your other outlaw? You want to talk about Kid Curry a little bit?
Kid Curry, man. Kid Curry
that's pretty much it. We're going to talk about the movie as well, but let's talk about Kid Curry for a second.
There was, like I said, there's some other members of the gang, but Kid Curry is one of the members in that picture of when they're all kind of dressed in their fancy suits. But there's another picture of Kid Curry, and his name is actually Harvey Logan. But me and Michael just love this picture of him because with how expensive and how hard pictures were to come by back then and to really get a portrait of somebody, the picture of Harvey Logan is him sitting cross-legged in a chair, hat up, half done, just disheveled, just not giving a fuck.
If this
just
was
like not even looking at the camera, not even looking anywhere.
Right. If this was in today, I would think he was just sitting there on his phone.
Yeah,
that's what he looks like he's doing. It looks like he's on his phone in 1890.
And apparently, this man was one of the more violent ones as well of the group. He apparently killed 9 deputies and lawmen while he was in the Wild Bunch.
Butch hung out with some rough company, man.
Yeah,
that's part of why he was wanted so much. Honestly,
a lot of the people around him did a lot of crazy shit. But apparently, this guy right here was so well known with the ladies and the women of the night that they used to visit that once he started riding with Butch Cassidy and started becoming a little bit more famous, all these prostitutes started coming out of the woodwork and being like, "This is your baby. This is also your baby. This is your baby." And he had like 85. I was about to say,
I don't want to get the impression that he was a ladies' man because that's not what we're talking about.
Like
here.
he did like the prostitutes. He did like to go and visit the brothels and the sex workers. He liked to visit the brothels a lot. Mm-hmm. And yes, he did. They do believe he probably had like 5 or 6 kids maybe, but like they had over 85 children brought to him being like, "This is your baby too. We need money. This is your baby."
Yeah, right.
Like 85 people were just like child support.
Right. We know you got it.
It's just because he was friends with Butch Cassidy. He's like, I just ride with him, man.
Right.
It's like being a part of like someone's entourage.
Right. He's like, I blew all that money on y'all.
Yeah, man. I already gave you all the money we made from the bank robbery, and I gave you everything else.
Right.
But yeah, like they had some pretty crazy people in there, and that was apparently Kid Curry got his name from his mentor, Flat Nose Curry, which I just I just love the nicknames people got
That
back
is
in the
funny.
day. They just take names, whatever. And most of the time it was like,
Like I said, you got called twice.
either
you're
you
fucked.
did something like weird, and that was what your name was,
Yeah.
or you just had a weird, just like weird look about you, and that
Yep.
was what it was. There's a guy in their name who was just like, "That's too tall," or whatever. It was like,
Yeah.
I think it was Ben Kilpatrick. I think that was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they called him the Tall Texan. It's just like, yeah, he's tall as fuck.
Oh, is he the guy
He's tall.
that
That's
challenges Butch in the movie? I can't remember what they called him, but there is a really
Yeah, the
big
tall-
member
yeah,
of the
the tall
group.
guy.
Yeah,
They do the knife-
Butch like kicks him in the balls.
They do the
and then-
knife fight where he's like, you know, because he says like, "Oh,
He's
we're
like,
gonna go over
knives
the
or
rules."
guns, Butch.
Well, he says we gotta go over the rules. He's like, "There's no rules in a knife fight." He just kicks him in the nuts. He's like, "All right, well, I guess we gotta start this fight now. Everybody count to 3. Let's get it going." And he punches him in the face again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, this is Ben Kilpatrick. Like I said, you just had to be whatever the most defining characteristic about you was. That was your nickname. It's tall. This is Tall Texan.
Yeah.
My name's Ben. Yeah, you're Tall Texan.
Yeah, you're tall Texan. Shut up. Shut up. There.
Shut up, that flat nose Curry. He looks like flat nose Curry looks like someone's butler. Like he looks like a character from Clue. He's got like a monocle on, like just like I don't know. He just looks like a old banker or something.
Well, people dressed up for pictures, man. That's probably not how he looked regularly, but you know, when you had, like I said, when you had an opportunity for a picture,
Unless
you wanted to do some.
Unless you're Harvey Logan.
Unless
Kid
you're Harvey
Curry,
Logan, and you're
apparently
just-
just never gave a fuck at all.
No, he didn't give a shit.
Yeah, you can see in the other picture when they have the 5 men, he's in the back. He's still not looking at the camera.
He doesn't
Of
give a
all the
shit.
members of the bunch, like several of them are looking. Kid Curry's in the back behind Butch, and he's just looking off to the side, like, "Are we done? Like, why am I here? Like, why am I?" Like they made him shave a little bit. He doesn't even look like he's happy to be there.
He's pissed
for this.
off.
He's like,
He's
"Guys,
not happy about it."
Why? You know how long it makes me stand here? It's like 45 minutes.
Exactly.
You know how old pictures used to be?
But yeah, I thought he was an honorable mention, you know.
Yeah, they had some pretty fun members kind of coming in and out of that gang. But
Yeah.
yeah, the guy who had 85 paternity cases come to him after riding with Butch Cassidy.
Yeah.
Just kind of my favorite.
That's
he was also
crazy.
the guy who, when they did the dynamite thing and they blew up the train car.
Yeah.
Or Kid Curry was the one who walked in and was going to kill the conductor.
Yeah,
And apparently,
of course.
you know, Butch Cassidy said apparently he said no, a man with that kind of nerve deserves another day. Or
Oh, okay.
Because the man said nope, you can come in and get it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't open the door for him, so. And he was an unarmed guard, like he was just in there,
Yeah.
with the keys to the safe or whatever. So,
Yeah, those guys often caught the raw end of the deal. Those train conductors.
Yeah.
because they're on there by themselves, you know, and they got dynamite. They're gonna blow the damn door off. There ain't nothing you can do.
Yeah, they don't got the what was the Wells Fargo trailer carriages with the shotgun men on both sides.
No,
or whatever. This is
no.
just a car. This is a train.
No, the way they portray that in the movie is probably pretty damn close to how it went. Honestly, there's a great train robbery scene in the movie where they keep running into this same conductor that works for J.H. Morgan,
Yeah.
and it's fucking hilarious. But speaking of the movie, I want to talk a little bit about some issues that are with the movie. There's a lot. Okay, yeah, you can't take it as fact, obviously, which is hilarious because they start the movie with most of what follows is true.
Okay.
Which they know that it's not.
Yeah, it's it's like the Mitch Hedberg line where it's like inspired by true events. It's like this movie was about this, and it inspired me to make a movie about a gorilla.
this. Exactly.
It's like inspired by true events.
Exactly. So the disclaimer at the beginning of the film is obviously tongue-in-cheek. The reality is that much of the lore surrounding Butch and Sundance is very difficult and sometimes impossible to confirm or debunk. So screenwriter William Goldman, who primarily had been a novelist before this, just kind of ran with it. He was like, I think I know enough. I think we can do it, and it's a movie, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And in fact, that's why he wrote a movie instead of a book. He was interested in the story, but he didn't want to do the work that a book would require.
Didn't want to do all the research. He didn't want to do the homework.
That's why I love studying books. That's why I love having a book as one of your main resources.
That's why I love being the co-host. So I don't have to do all the homework.
You don't fuck up with book research, though.
No, you don't. You better not.
You can't.
People will be citing your book.
Yeah, unless you just really don't know, and then more information comes out later.
Yeah.
In regards to I'm thinking of books like Helter Skelter and then Chaos.
They also kind of capitalized on the buddy cop movies of the day and the cops and robbers, the outlaws, the anti-heroes. So yeah, they dramatize the movie to make them more of this these two best friends against the world who they got their backs against the wall and they're just trying to get by, and Butch and Sundance were not lifelong best friends who had been doing this for a long time. They weren't. That's not who they were.
Actually, Elsie Lay was his best friend.
Yeah, it's either Elsie Lay or Mike Cassidy. Those are the ones who he really had connections with. It just seems like him and Sundance kind of wound up together towards the end of the run.
They said that they didn't. They said they didn't call the movie Butch Cassidy and Elsie Lay because they thought nobody would watch that.
Yeah, because like the
doesn't sound
Sundance,
cool.
when you have someone in the band or in the gang called the Sundance Kid, it just sounds like Batman and Robin. Like
It
when you
does.
got like a nickname and you got Billy the Kid. If you don't got a nickname, that you don't want to put him in the title. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
That's why that fucking Jesse James movie is so stupidly long.
That's right.
Jesse James and the death.
But here's another issue with it, right?
Not enough shirtless Robert Redford.
Not enough.
That's my biggest complaint. Not enough shirtless Robert Redford. And Paul Newman. And you know what? Paul Newman too.
Yeah, Paul Newman's he's a good-looking guy
those
too.
Marvel
Come on.
shirtless scenes where they make them all bulk up for that one scene. Where was that scene back then?
Yeah, right. Well, they wanted to keep the G rating or PG rating, whatever it was.
Oh yeah, that didn't matter back then. They could have just come in fucking tits everywhere in that movie. Like PG.
In 1969,
Go watch Airplane. Airplane is PG, and
is
there's
not
literally
PG.
Airplane is PG, and there's literally a scene where the entire screen is taken up by two naked tits. They just go digga, 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 digga. PG, because we watched it in middle school band one time.
Wow. Loophole.
Loophole. Right. He's like, oh, titties.
Right. There's some like 12-year-old kid that's like, I know a movie I want to watch tonight, Mom. It's rated PG.
Rated PG. I know we're watching family movie night. Can I rent this and watch it in my room?
Right.
It's PG.
But we alluded earlier to the super posse, right?
Yes.
Let's get to the super posse.
Let's get to this super posse.
In real life, there was a super posse in real life.
I know.
Okay? But with a very different outcome. It wasn't like the movie. The super posse didn't epically chase them across the desert and all this shit.
Yeah, they didn't have just like
and
an
then
army,
they
like a
escaped
small
jumping
army.
into a river. No, none of that shit happened. There was a super posse, but they didn't engage Butch and Sundance in much of a chase. Or one at all.
Or like direct combat either.
At all. As soon as Butch and Sundance heard who it was in the group, they fled, knowing that they'd never be able to beat them. Mm-hmm. And the hunt was over basically before it started. So that's once they heard about this super posse, they dipped to South America, and that's it.
Yeah, once you get to a certain point in your notoriety where they're having to like assemble their own small army to try and find you, you're like, all right, time to be hitting the old dusty trail, I guess.
Yep, exactly.
Let's see what Bolivia's like.
Right.
I got the National Guard after me now.
Exactly. One thing I did appreciate about the film, which I mentioned earlier, I appreciated how funny it was. Actually, there were some pretty funny scenes in it. And but what's crazy is the film actually had to endure additional editing because it was too funny.
Yeah, exactly. They were like,
according
they were
to like
capitalizing on,
pre-screens,
like the buddy comedy, like the buddy cops, and like those two, like what was the 48 Hours with like Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy and stuff. They were trying to capitalize on that. The two leading men, like one's like the straight guy, one's the comedian. And, that was what they were trying to do, and it turned out pretty funny. Both of those men are devilishly charming. Yeah.
Well, what's funny is after the additional cuts, critics still complained that the movie was too humorous. Which is funny because they should have seen the earlier cut, right? That was shown to the freaking the other audiences because it was even more uproarious, right? Zanuck later recalled that test screening audiences found it too funnier than the studio had in mind. They wanted it to be an amusing Western, but not an all-out comedy Western, which obviously was a genre that tended to do poorly around the time. They took their John Wayne very seriously.
Yeah, if it's not Blazing Saddles, it's not a funny comedy Western. So they were expecting a Clint Eastwood, a John Wayne, one of those classic Western type deals. With some, those movies always had a little bit of a country joke every now and then, but it wasn't slapstick. There wasn't many punchlines in those movies.
No,
but like I said, you get two guys like Robert Redford and Paul Newman who are devilishly handsome and just ridiculously charming.
Yep,
they're gonna improv some stuff here. It's like, oh man, god damn it. That's really good.
That's really good. We're gonna leave that in there.
I'm just gonna leave that in. That's really good.
He probably would have said that.
Yeah, he would have said that. God, yeah. Can you say that again, Rob?
Right.
But to me this time, can you just look into my eyes and say it?
Right. Right on. Well, that's our episode on Butch Cassidy. That's it, guys. Hopefully that was entertaining. Hopefully I dug up enough stuff. Like I said at the beginning, it's just one of those timelines that can never end. I mean, I feel like I've been working on this timeline for like 5 days. It just seems like there's just more and more shit. I was literally re-listening to the book up until the time to record because there's so much about it. There's so much other stories. There's different
tangents you get lost
different
into.
tangents,
like,
right? Different versions of all these different encounters.
Just all the different members of his gang. Like each different member of the gang that kind of comes in,
show,
you're like,
man.
oh my god, this guy did this. Oh shit, let's talk about this guy. He did that. Like
exactly.
I just brought up like 3 of the gang members at the end just to bring up some of the things about them. Like he had some pretty interesting people throughout his life. Even the first ones we talked about, the Bassets, or the Bassets.
Yeah.
They were 2 female gang members. They were like 2 like women gang leaders. So like he had a plethora of kind of famous and celebrity kind of people rolling through his life.
Yep.
So yeah, this case just you kept going down. You're like, oh, can we talk about this for a little bit? All right, kid derails it too much. All right, I'm like, bring it back.
Right.
Like I said, we could have done a whole episode just on the Mormon Church itself and how the Mormon migration to Utah.
Yep.
But yeah, all these characters in this story are pretty interesting people. Like when it gets to the Old West, you get to those cowboy stories and outlaws. They're all interesting. There's nobody out there if there's a story about you in the Old West, it's because you were interesting as fuck.
Most likely.
Like there's nobody everybody else was either boring or dead. So like all the Old West stories are pretty interesting. That's why they wrote about them.
Absolutely, dude. And we still love to over romanticize them today. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was trying to do when I was putting together this timeline. Like I still wanted him to seem like this larger than life character, but I also wanted to be realistic as much as I possibly could,
Exactly.
And then who knows? Maybe he's better than what we even think. But overall, I think Butch Cassidy was a good dude that did some bad things. And he did some bad things, but he was pure of heart, like I said.
Yeah, he wasn't. They do try to give him like a Robin Hood type persona, and that kind of does give him a little too much credit. Yes, he was stealing from rich people, from the cattle barons, from the land barons, from the people from the train companies. He was stealing from them, and yes, he did kind of. He would give out money to friends and acquaintances and people who helped him, but he was not just stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. No, that was for his gang and themselves.
Yep.
And then whatever they had left over, they might toss some to the local bartender, to the brothels. But no, he wasn't really Robin Hood, but he's also not Jesse James. He's not, robbing and shooting and killing, or he's not at least. So yeah, he does have, he has like this kind of allure about him. Is like whether he is more of an outlaw or more of just a, kind of gray area.
Yeah. And a lot of that allure, that the righteous things that he did, I don't know about his reasons. I think a lot of it was because he was just narcissistic and wanted to be seen in a good light. So there were these few lines that he wouldn't cross. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because he wanted to maintain this persona. But either way, like me and Lauren had this discussion one time. I'm like, if somebody does good and they're a good person and they do things that make them a good person and society benefits from that, I don't care about their reasons. I really don't care. I don't care if you just want to be seen as a good person or if you're just fighting every urge to kill everyone and you just keep doing good things. And if you have that kind of willpower, either way, good person's good person. Keep it all in your head. We don't know.
Keep it all just keep the good things out here, bad things in here, okay? Good things out there, bad.
That's right.
Keep the bad things in there.
And speaking of good things out there, guys, I want to give you guys, your new patrons, a big True Crime Guys thank you. Andy, you ready to do some patron shout outs?
I think so. Let's do it.
Yeah, we always shout out the new patrons every month, and we're going to continue to do that. So we're going to go all the way back to, let's see, we're recording on the 24th. Let's go back at least a month. Let's go back to January 23rd, my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
No, it was a month ago.
I didn't tell you then.
No. That's okay. I hate my birthday.
Me too.
So here we go. Let's go down through some of these lines. Can you see them from there, Andy?
I can see them. I got these new glasses. Yeah.
I forgot you got new subscriptions. I'm going to read.
Subscribe to our Patreon.
What? Prescriptions. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. But let's go on here and let's shout. We're going all the way back to January 23rd. Like we say, if we miss somebody, let us know and we'll get you on the next episode. But I want to give a big thank you to Nomada Savaga, Amy Yu, Rose Newcomb, Brandy Romanelli, Erica Marie Granado, Keely Welford, Carissa Gagnon
style.
Gagnon, Conan Wright, Justin, Carly.
Just Justin.
Just Justin, man. Just Carly. Carla Wyke, Nia Lingo, Sydney Simpson, Sierra Gadskill. You want to read a couple of these?
I think I can take over from here. We got Miss Linda Greenwood, Heather Lee, Jordan Bueller.
You nailed it in one of those.
Bueller. Deborah Fields. We have Casey. Casey.
Mm-hmm. Just a Casey.
It's a Casey. It's one of the Caseys.
It's one of the Caseys.
It's a Casey.
Yep.
Crystal, Robbie Rip, Cullen Simpson, Elise Pantino, Seth Beach, Wade Prince, Vexed, Vexed.
Vexed.
But it's a capital. It's a weirdly,
Devlin.
yeah. Vexed Devlin? Vexed
Yes.
Devlin, a.k.a. Sirius Nex Vex?
Nope.
Devin?
We'll just go with Vex Devlin.
Devlin. Carol.
That's
Always
right.
keeping it classy, Carol.
Carol.
Jared Hill. Kim Waldmack, and
Sure.
Robert Edmonds.
For some reason, it sent 2 emails for Jared Hill. Jared, you might have signed up twice. Either way, thank you.
Thank you.
But
We
yeah,
like you just as much.
as always, thank you guys for all of your support, especially right now, especially as me and Andy are kind of getting our bearings, figuring out how we're going to split up the workload and, stay consistent for you guys. But we do have a plan in place. We are planning ahead, and I'm exhausted. Honestly.
I know, it's been
we
a
still
busy
got to
week.
do JTB, and then we got to finish up Sandu stories. We got a long night ahead of us. So guys, we're going to jump off here. I hope you enjoyed this hour and 40-minute episode. Wow.
I need
Not
some
bad.
water. My
Not
voice
bad
is
for
getting
Patreon.
tired.
I know my water's gone.
You got one more thing for us, Michael?
No.
Just one more story, Michael.
I got no more stories.
Come on, Dutch.
All right, guys.
Well, thank you all, Patreon
Yes.
listeners. And again, we will be posting some different things about the upcoming live stream that we will be doing
Yes.
for JTB. That again will be on, when you guys are seeing this, it will be tomorrow on what was it, May 1st or March 1st?
March 2nd,
March 2nd.
I believe.
So yeah, guys, tune in for that live stream.
Yes.
We'll try and get all the links posted for that, and we'll try to answer all your questions when you give them to us right then. So
Yep.
you can be right there just talking shit to us the whole time. So
Great.
Go for it.
All right. Anything else?
I think we're all pretty good right now, man. I'm getting hungry.
That's
So
it.
Some beans. Give me like a little bean can. It's like some old prospector sitting around a campfire.
Yeah, that's what you want? Some beans and
Yeah.
weenies?
Yeah, get some beans around a campfire, Michael.
Good stuff.
Get that banjo. Start telling me a story.
All right. All right, guys. Well, we're out of here. We'll see you next week back on the free platform. All right. Just keep creeping.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free to check out all the other shows on our TCG network, as well as subscribing to our YouTube channel. Starting every Monday with new episodes of Strange and Unexplained, followed every other Tuesday by our audio drama podcast, Sandu Stories. Then, of course, new episodes of True Crime Guys every Wednesday. And if that's not enough, head on over to our Patreon, where you can have access to hundreds of hours of exclusive content, including older episodes, strange shorts, the latest edition of Sandu Stories, and, of course, higher thoughts. But until next time, guys, keep creeping.
You hush your mouth, boy.